And so we're going to call our meeting to order for the Board of Directors, January 25th, 2023, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Miss Chris, and roll call.
Right. Division 1.
Here.
Division 2.
Here.
Division 3.
Here.
Division 4 today is absent. Division 5.
Here.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment for items not on the agenda?
Star 9 would raise hands or.
Okay, seeing that, we will move on to the special orders.
Thank you, President Hall. So this is an exciting time. We are able to recognize a few recent retirees. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all of our recent retirees. We had a number of them that retired at basically the end of the calendar year. And although it's always a sad time for staff and management to see them go, we are always happy and very jealous that they do get to go permanently. So with that, I'd like to take special recognition of a few that are here, and I'm glad to see some supporting faces just walk in. Two very special people are with us right now, and I will first start with Nancy. Nancy, you want to stand up so everyone can see you? Nancy Alstrand is just absolute gem. She is somebody that I really enjoyed getting to know over the past year and a half. Nancy has been with the district since 2000, and she has primarily served in the finance division, in basically responsible for all things budget. But as all good agencies do, Nancy was tasked with many, many other things throughout the years, and that speaks to how capable she is, how smart she is, and the wealth of knowledge and history she has with the district. One of my favorite things about Nancy, and not many people notice this at first, is she has one of the funniest senses of humor. And so I greatly enjoyed that. And, if you are blessed with a Nancy smile, it definitely warms your day up. She has a great smile, and I really appreciate getting to know her. And she's also has some attribute that I find very valuable, in that she is always up for a debate. So she is up to get to the bottom of any challenge or mystery. And as we know, the finance department has its fair share of mysteries and skeletons in the closet. And so Nancy has been instrumental in helping dig those out and explain them, and to help us through this journey of trying to improve the finance department, which many of the improvements I know Nancy has been wanting for many, many years. And so she has just had great feedback and has been a great support through this effort, and we're really going to miss her. And we hope we get her to come visit us, but she does live up the hill a ways, so we might have to try to pull her down here. Maybe I can say that I need some assistance with something. She'll come down and explain about how to fix things. But Nancy, did you want to say anything? I know you've been here for so long. You've seen several general managers, several finance directors. Nancy is like the historian of finance.
Lots of boards.
Lots of boards. When we go through why did we do this, or why did we do that, or what is going on with pentomation, she is the one who could usually give us the background on it.
Maybe she can tell us the story about the gold bars.
Oh yeah, the gold bars. That's my favorite thing ever about NID.
That's right. Yes, I was here during the gold bar era, and I just want to say it's been a pleasure to serve the citizens of the counties of Nevada and Placer, Yuba, and I have enjoyed working here for 22 years. And yeah, I'm gonna miss all you guys and look forward to seeing you again occasionally. I've been here since 1972, so well, not completely, but off and on. And so I've been here a long time. I love Nevada County, and be moving away, I'm not sure, but, you know, that remains to be seen. But it'll always hold a special place in my heart. So thank you for letting me serve you for 22 years, and a fond goodbye to all of you.
Thank you.
Here, here.
So the next individual we have up is Kate Gunter. Kate has worked with the district for 15 years, and I know from my experience with Kate as well as from speaking with other people, she quickly became one of the glue that holds a lot of the staff together. She is very staff-centric, and she gets to know everybody, and everybody enjoys having some time to go speak with Kate and talk to her. One of the other things, Kate has been down in the records division, and I don't know if everybody realizes this or not, but NID has been hoarding for years and years. To the point where we needed significant intervention. Not only was it probably a fire hazard, but it was getting to the point of being embarrassing. And so Kate has just done a wonderful job of getting us up to, you know, the actual century we're in. So the hoarding has ceased. She did a wonderful job of getting our records in order, and she is a super sleuth. If you need a document, and sometimes in this line of work, there are oftentimes we come across a challenge, and we have to go way back in history. You know, we often find ourselves back into, 1962 to solve some type of mystery, whatever we're working on. And so Kate has always just been wonderful in helping us find those records. She knows a lot of the history of the district, and she's been personally committed to documenting the history of the district.
Oh, nice.
Which is funny, I'm a little bit of a purger, thrower, aware, and Kate is a historian, so sometimes she has to remind me of the value of preserving history. So I appreciate that, Kate. And Kate also, she has always been very actively involved in the culture of NID and being able to plan a lot of the employee social events. She's one of the social chairs for years and years. And so I know that staff greatly appreciated all of the personal effort that she put into making this place more fun. And I know everybody is really going to miss Kate. I know I am. And I know that Chris wanted to say something.
Yes, so Kate worked in my division down in Central Files, and she was kind of my right hand, so helping on basically every public records request. If I needed to dig, I just call Kate. Kate helped kind of lead the way on all of those. She also was instrumental in setting up our new platform where we retain records, which is digitally. So getting all that whole system to a very old organization, it was quite the challenge, and she was just a hero in that those efforts with Laserfish. So kudos to Kate for that. We're kind of losing one of our lead investigators, but she's helped to train new ones. So this is a very good thing, and she is quite the historian. Kate's last name is Gunther, so we're losing our ice cream connection. So Gunther's ice cream. So I'm really glad I have a good friend in Kate, and I know that we'll continue to see her often. And so I just wish you all the best. And lots of fun travel. So I would hope you share your new adventures with us. Anyway, we'll miss you greatly.
Kate, did you want to say anything?
I guess. I am always going to be grateful for NID giving me a job. I got this job 15 years ago when things weren't so great in the county as far as jobs were concerned. And so there isn't a day passed by that I've not been grateful. And I love the people at NID. I have made so many friends and had such good times, besides working. And the work part has been really cool because of my job and because of times I had to go into the history of NID. It made me realize how important NID is in the county, how enmeshed it is in the history of the county itself. I also discovered relatives in the minutes back from the 60s. They were actually in the minutes, and they got some properties from NID years ago, and there's a resolution and everything. It was kind of cool. I just love it. I love the historical part of it. So I hope that the importance of that continues with whoever takes my place now and in the future. So, anyway, I just want to say thank you for everything and all the fun times.
able to be here, but as many people know, Fred also retired. Fred led the water treatment department for a number of years, and he was integral to understanding our systems, and he was just a very valuable employee, and he will surely be missed. Chip, did you want to say anything about Fred?
Sure, I can. So Fred was an interesting character. I can't think of anybody else better to run the water treatment division, because Fred his attention to detail was uncanny and unfathomable. He would focus in on something and you couldn't divert him, which sometimes that can be a detriment, but in the water treatment world, it works great. He would focus in on every little detail, and it really paid off for the district, because there was many times the state would come in and give us an inspection, and they would call us on something, and Fred would go, well, wait a minute, here's section 225 of the rules. It doesn't say that, and they would be like, you're right, Fred. He did a great job for all of that, and in his oversight in the, 20 or 25 years he was here?
25 years. No, 20 years. 20 years.
He oversaw billions of gallons of water to be treated and served to this community, and the community's ever grateful, and I know he's grateful to NID for the opportunity he had, and it was a symbiotic relationship. So we're going to miss him. He's moving on to exploring motorcycling, so we wish him a safe retirement.
I think we'll just do a real quick Employee Service Awards presentation, and then if it is okay with the board, I would just ask for maybe a 5-minute recess so our staff could say goodbye to our retirees.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So Employee Service Awards are always a fun time. It's a celebration of their dedication to the district, and the first two up are Carl Cookson and Kenny Grabat, or I'm sorry, Mark Grabat. Kenny Grabat is actually this, Mark's cousin, who unfortunately passed away earlier this year from the plaster yard. And so, apologize, Mark, when I look at Mark, it does make me think of Kenny. I know that the plaster yard is still struggling with missing him. It was an unexpected passing, and he'll be greatly missed by our team. So Carl Cookson, he is all things facilities. He is wonderful to have around. Facilities people can have basically two personalities. They can be constantly irritated because they're being asked to do all kinds of little things based off of the myriad of complaints that us office workers can magically come up with. But Carl does it with a quick smile and quick humor. He has great wit, and so we greatly appreciate Carl taking care of us, and we appreciate when he's in the hallways. He always makes the day a little bit more fun. I already mentioned Mark. Mark also is a very kind person. He works out of the plaster yard. He is always quick with a quick smile, very warm individual, and so we greatly appreciate both of them for their 10 years of service. All right, the next two, Todd is, he is with hydropower, and as everybody knows, being in hydroelectrical, in hydropower, it comes with great responsibility, and Todd has always upheld that commitment, and he's a great, valuable member of our team. And we just talked about Kate, and is this your original picture? I think this might be Kate's original picture.
That's like 2012.
High school.
Okay, it might be her high school photo. It's the yearbook photo. So we just talked about Kate. Kate was with us for 15 years, so once again, we thank Kate. So we have our 20-year, we have a 20-year, we just talked about Fred, and in 25 years, Miss Shannon Wood. So I know, it's that, she's hiding from us. So, Shannon is just a wonderful staff member. She is very confident and capable, and I always know she's gonna do a wonderful job. We get so many compliments from the public related to Shannon's customer service and her ability to explain and help customers navigate through some of our more complicated business processes. And she did take the Duffley by the reins, although although everybody knows I'm not a huge fan of the Duffley, I cannot say that Shannon has done the best job anybody could do with that program. And many residents who have been able to participate definitely have Shannon to thank for that. So thank you, Shannon, for your 25 years. And I think that's all we had. All right, so maybe just a 4-minute break so staff could say a quick goodbye.
Okay?
All right.
Okay, that was wonderful presentation. I really appreciate the ability, and time that we devote to acknowledging our staff and really having a special time for retirees, people going off into the sunset of retirement and the glory that awaits them there. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Any comments? Anything want to be pulled?
Madam Chairman, I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
I actually would like to pull one thing. I'd like to pull 4G very briefly.
One typo,
One typo.
January 11th, 2023. So under North Yuba Irrigation District on their near board, new board, to be new.
Oh, it was near?
Let's
Yeah.
pull
Okay.
that. 4B, we'll pull
Yeah.
4B.
4B and 4G.
So we've noted the changes to 4B.
We'll pull it.
Okay,
So we'll,
okay, it just comes back on.
Director Gabriel, will you amend your motion to be, approve the consent agenda minus items 4B and 4G?
Yes. Yes, Madam Chairman.
No, because I seconded your motion.
Oh. Yes.
Okay,
Are you really
yes.
confused
So
now?
Okay, and I will second your amended motion.
Okay.
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Okay, is there public
Is
comment?
there public comment on the consent agenda items 4A, 4C, 4D, 4E, 4F, 4H? Star 9 your phone. Do you have a public comment? I see no public comment, so.
Division 1,
Yes.
Division 2,
Yes.
Division 5,
Yes.
Division 3.
Aye.
For B, I move that we approve it, just change the near to new. We're all happy.
Can you confirm what page number that's on?
That's page 6, as part of Director Johansson's report.
Yeah.
Again, congratulate the North Yuba Irrigation District.
It's actually North Yuba Water District.
Okay.
We did say that last time, so.
I'm not amending that, I'm just changing near to new.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So do I hear a second?
Oh, I'll second.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'll call it a conversation.
Any public comment on item 4B? Seeing none, we'll vote.
Division 1,
Yes?
Division 2,
Yes.
Division 5,
Yes.
Division 3.
Aye. Okay, on item 4G, I just wanted to take a moment to thank John and his team for the work that was done relative to this issue of the security of our. Over the holidays, I heard that a number of utilities had been hacked over the past 6 months, and that the cost to their district was staggering. And so this service agreement, I think it brought to mind the vulnerability that a district has if it doesn't have this security. And I wanted to thank you for your work on that, as well as your other team members. And then you save this money on top of it. So I like both of those things, and just wanted to call it out separately for that reason.
Thank you.
It's a great shout out.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
My question was, is this a new system or an upgrade or what?
This is a replacement. During the network breach a year ago, we quickly implemented a SOC service, or 24/7 monitoring service. But over the year, we've got to realize what we got, and we can improve the service at a reduced cost.
Oh, good.
So this is a replacement.
Thank you.
And you know, John's IT team has been working around the clock after our breach in 2021, and it has been just a monumental feat to bring us up to speed, kind of from where we were before as an IT department to where we want to be. John's got a great vision on where we want to go, so we'll be implementing a lot of new activities and ideas in the coming years. But it is a nonstop, 24/7, 365-day activity. And so John and his team also would echo your sentiments, Director Hull, on the work that they're doing. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for that. Yeah, you're free.
Excuse my etiquette.
John?
You want to move to, I move to accept 5G or 4G?
Second.
Any public comment on item 4G of the consent agenda? Seeing no hands raised, we will, take a vote.
Division 1,
Yes.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 5,
Yes.
Division 3.
Aye. Okay, moving on to general orders. We have item 5A, the annual updates to the fee schedule. It's Aurora and Chip.
Okay, good morning, board, staff, and public. I'm Chip Close, Director of Water Operations, here along with Aurora Penaluna, Customer Service Administrator. And today we are here to hopefully review and ask for approval of updates to the fee schedules. As you all remember, back in 2021, Aurora and her team performed a thorough analysis of all the district's rates and fee schedules that are not subject to Prop 218. Some of these fees had not been updated in many, many years, and there was no real good track record of how they were calculated. So last year's efforts were a major leap in getting everything up to speed. Our goal was to update the documents so that all the fee calculations were transparent, consistent, and allowed for greater efficiency in the future. However, over the last year, Aurora and the customer service teams have implemented these fees and schedules and realized that there's a couple of rates that need some minor tweaking and or updates due to pricing changes. So today we are here to hopefully walk you through those changes. There's about 4 of them today that we will discuss. We'll start with Schedule 4H, which is the tank water fees. Basically, this is the fee that we charge folks that come in. They grab a hydrant meter from us, they pull water off our treated water system, it runs through these meters, they tally the usage, then they call into our customer service team to update their usage, and then they get a bill. Well, last year, the district made a concerted effort to utilize technology and upgrade all these meters, and our new meters are now cellularly driven. And so any usage that goes on through those new meters is automatically tracked and reported back to the district. So no longer do we count on these folks for the honesty reporting. We know in real time what's going on with these meters, we can see it. So awesome leap forward in technology, but that comes at a cost. And so these meters do cost a little bit more, and the deposit we were charging in the past covered the cost of the old meter, but it no longer covers the cost of the new meter. So the adjustment in today's proposal is to increase that from $900 to $1,200. That will cover the cost of the new style meters. And that's in case they happen to keep it or destroy it or whatever. There's no loss to us. We'll just keep the deposit.
So, you were able to buy how many of those at $1,200?
How many?
We have about 80 of the new style. We still have about 20 of the old style that we keep on hand just in case.
And how much is the 2023, 2024 replacement cost?
$1,200.
Right today,
Yeah.
given inflation?
Mm-hmm.
And that brings up a fair point, is that the update in 2021 we performed to these fees and schedules was to establish a new baseline, but we will be adjusting these every year with CPI and adjustments.
Okay. And you could do that with this resolution? You don't have to come back to us?
No, we come back every year and give you the major change. Although I will say, in the original adoption of the fee schedules, we did get authorization to adjust these by CPI annually if that's.
And today's proposal actually asks that we are able to increase the tank water deposit annually based on actual costs, rounded up to the nearest $100.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So the new one, so the old one, they could flip and run it backwards. The new one, they can't.
They can, but we can see it.
You still see it.
So we actually go in and we look at the usage on every meter every month. And if we see that they've mistakenly put their meter on backwards, we add that usage back into their bill.
Have we caught anybody?
There've been a few.
Good job. No, it was blatant, I mean, pretty rampant.
So our latest discussion with the, meter technology folks is, can we put trackers on these too? There's some legality issues there, so that's on hold for now.
Huh.
Okay, the next item is Schedule 5C, that's the raw water service outlet periodic charges. This particular charge, you can see we're actually proposing to reduce the fee. And you know, we're always looking for ways of better efficiency and ways to save money for our customers. And this is one of those items where we studied, basically what happened is that we would go out into the distribution system and check every single one of these boxes to make sure they are off, locked, or had the appropriate amount being pushed through it. In discussions with our distribution team, we figured out that we really don't need to charge an individual service call to each one of these boxes. Instead, what we can do is go out and visit all these facilities as we set up the distribution system for the summer season and kind of fold those costs in as a blanket. And then if we're using the appropriate locks that we've bought now, the little tags where we secure the boxes, you really don't have to go back out to these facilities anymore. So we've basically taken that service call fee out of this charge and folded it in with the overall cost of setting up the distribution system. It's kind of postage stamp. And so that's the reason for the major adjustment in this particular fee. Again, we're trying to just focus on what our true costs are and not charge more than that.
I just want to comment that I know you made 3 people in just my neighborhood very happy when you hear about this. Because it went down from 180 to 72. And so, but there was also the question of the rotation. Out in that district, they do their own rotation. Whereas in another area, NID does the rotation because of the personalities of the people involved.
While they may do their own rotation, we still follow up behind to make sure it happens so that we know the billing and all of that is correct. So we are still going out and visiting those sites. So that fee remains. You'll notice though in the language, we clarified the language in the rotation fee, basically eliminating the per outlet. Again, that's just cleanup to ensure.
So it saves people money.
It does in that, it did say per season, per outlet. It's one charge per account.
Yeah, because generally, the whole ranch will be getting the rotation, not just one outlet to the next outlet to the next outlet. Then it switches to the next range.
Right.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, good job, thank you.
Moving on, Schedule 5J, bulk stock water, and Schedule 5K. These are both the same adjustments. So basically, how we used to calculate these is we would take the base fee and the consumptive fee, add them together, and then do the multiplier on top of that for adjustment. All of our other fees don't do it that way. They take the base fee, put the CPI on that, they take the consumptive fee, put the CPI on that, and that's the more appropriate way to do it moving forward, because there may be a point in time where we adjust those fees independently of each other, and so we need to calculate them individually. And that's all we need to do, is take those fee schedules and mirror the other ones on how we do that. Treat the base fee and the consumptive fee separately and calculate them individually.
I was confused on that one in the policy section, just that, because it says in here that the only fiscal change is for item 2, the raw water service outlet periodic charge. So that was the only fiscal impact. But when I looked at, the fall stock water, it looked like it went from $570 for the fixed charge to $184, and then it looked like the volumetric charge also went down. So I just wasn't sure how that, how we could not have a fiscal impact on the fall stock water, given that seems like both costs are going down.
You think it's costing the district more than what we're charging?
I don't know how it could not have a fiscal impact is my question. So I don't quite understand.
So the 570 would be for a full winter season.
Okay.
When you're seeing the, page here, 184.31, that's because the fall season is only 47 days. So what we've done is prorate it to the appropriate length. Because if they were paying 570, they would be paying for 184 days, 184 days of service.
Okay. So we have been charging 570?
We have not. No, 570 is the winter fixed fee.
Okay.
So that's what we base the rate on, because it is a portion of the winter season,
Right.
but we've always done a proration. This is really just updating the formula, so that the formula reads correctly.
Okay. All right. So the income is the same?
Correct.
Okay.
And the nexus is to our actual costs.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because it's tied to the the winter irrigation rate, it was all reviewed through Prop 218. We're just reducing the amount of time that we're delivering.
Thank you.
That's a lot of it for the 1,000 people who are on consumptive use, 1,000 customers.
It's a mix in the winter months that you're referring to, that in the fall, yeah, it's a mix between consumptive and stock water.
And this is an area where we don't allow additional people to sign on, is this correct?
Fall water is requested annually. And so right now, because we are still operating under the drought declaration, we're not accepting any fall water services. But if we were operating under normal times, then they would request fall water annually before September.
Okay.
If you brought a resolution forward to us to ask to drop the surplus, could we? Or not to drop the surplus, to drop the drought declaration, could we do that?
Yes.
Well, I mean, and if people wanted to sign up for the fall, they could do that right then.
Well, we'll tackle that when we send out the billings here coming in the end of February. And we have folded that into the water change and the billings to say, here's your summertime application. Also, are you interested in fall water?
So that is coming, that's great.
Yeah, that's why it's important for us to make the decision on what kind of water year we're gonna have as early as possible, because we need to try to catch the billing before it goes out. Tricky. All right.
Thank you.
And I also want to thank you for it. I know, I've been, witness to all of this work that you have done. Oh, my goodness. The detail, and the care that you have put in has been awesome. Thank you so much.
And thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, members of the public have any comments? Seeing none, thank you so much.
I'm gonna move we accept, be reviewed, and we approve the updates to the fee schedule calculations.
I'll second it.
Okay, and we'll vote.
Division 1,
Yes.
Division 2,
Yes.
Division 5,
Yes,
Division 3.
Aye.
Thank you.
great,
Great job.
understandable,
Thank you.
fabulous.
Next, we have Kian with the 2023 budget amendment for the new hydroelectric field office.
Well, that's a good start to a presentation. I like that.
Applause comes first.
Yeah.
That was really weird.
All right. With that introduction,
Johnny Gilbert.
go ahead and start. So we, as you're aware, we purchased the building on Whitcomb Avenue in December of last year. When we brought it to the board, we hadn't had time to prepare all the documentation for the capital project. We hadn't had time to really figure out the budget. And so this is kind of a cleanup of a number of things associated with that. What we're asking for is for you to amend the 2023 annual budget, and it nets out to zero. But what we're doing is we're adding $1.95 million for improvements to the building, and then I've gone through a number of projects that we can defer or delay, and some of those projects are directly related to this acquisition. The easy example there is the $1 million that we had budgeted to build the radio tower at the old Hydro office site. Since we've bought this building and we've been negotiating with Placer County, it looks like we aren't going to have to build that tower at all. So I'm not 100% positive of that. We still got to negotiate the agreements with Placer County to co-locate on their tower, but they've been totally receptive to it thus far. So
And our rent would be ballpark.
that's what we got to negotiate.
Yeah. But it's a lot cheaper than
Oh, certainly, yeah.
the millions cheaper. We could do, no.
Yeah, we'll do fine, and it actually, there's an opportunity to co-locate on their tower, just outside of Colfax, and then we've also started talking about their tower, near Dutch Flat, which would then be able to see the Dutch Flat forebay, which would greatly increase our visibility of the project. So I think all around, it's really gonna work out pretty well, so. But there's more to come on that. There's the devil's in the details on these sorts of agreements. And then, so there's the addition to the budget, the corresponding cut to the budget for a net zero budget change. And then we're asking that you authorize a sole source contract to PBK, which is an architecture firm, to do the preliminary design for the building. We've gone with a sole source award to PBK because previously they had won the award of the contract, which we put out to bid. When we first we're planning to design the original office. We went out to 6 firms. We got quotes in. PBK won that process. They're very familiar with our needs since they did the work on the other buildings. So we think that with this phase 1 work, it's appropriate to award it to them based on their previous bid and their proven performance. So that's my presentation. If there's any questions I can answer, or if you need any information, let me know.
Question?
A level of excitement, 1 to 10.
I'm ready to move already. So, but we do have to fix the roof, and we've got some things to take care of. But we're ready to move. I think this is a game changer for the department. I know we spoke before the meeting about our rewind job that we've got coming up, and we're going to be able to buy all the parts ahead of time. We'll be able to buy them when it suits us best, and we'll just be able to store them.
Right.
It's really a game changer
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things. Yep.
It's a great thing you did there.
Yeah.
I want to ask that we get on the schedule so that we can go see it.
Yeah.
We've
Yes.
discussed this, and we're gonna do it on 2x2, so it's not a full-blown notice of a meeting. Yeah, it'll be a little bit more casual.
But you have a cleanup day on Friday, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we can put you to work. How are your roof patching skills?
Metal roof patch.
Yeah.
So I have 2 things I want to talk about, just on the items, the projects that you're pulling from your original capital program. I wanted to just make sure that the decision isn't based on money, but based on workload, because I think if the issue is not wanting to come to the board to increase the budget request, that's one issue, but because maybe those projects need to be done versus workload, which maybe you can't accommodate given the new big project on the remodel.
And so it's certainly, it's driven by 2 things. One, that some of the jobs we just don't need anymore, right? And so that's a significant portion of that. There's at least $1.25 million of savings because of that. But there is also the workload issue. And the concern about not being willing to come to the board is not why these were cut. So we just cannot get this amount of work done. so.
Well, and my question, and thank you for asking this, my question also, along the lines of workload is, because we're proposing to use staff to do a certain amount of the, make the move, right?
Well, this is, the workload at this point is more project management workload. We just don't have, the engineering department has lost an engineer, so there's some workload that needs to shift down there, and then as we reprioritize work, the project manager on the hydro side just can't do it all either. So it's, right now, it's not a construction staffing concern, it's a project management concern.
So my second thing was, on PBK's proposal of January 17th on page 11, they identified $574,000 of, total building design services, which they might just have voluntarily given you. But, so I can certainly understand why you want to do the sole source for this phase of the project. However, if these other phases 2 through 5 came into play, I would be hard pressed to say PBK is the one, because they had done the initial design work. So I just wanted to be on record that if we ended up pursuing those other aspects that they identified, that I would hope that we would go out to bid.
I wholeheartly agree. Yeah, no, the first phase makes a ton of sense. They've got all the background, they can do the conceptual design, we can come up with the plan quickly and cost effectively, but I entirely agree, the much larger scope, if necessary, is, should be bid.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
So other
Good
comments,
comment.
questions?
No, that was good.
I had two more small questions, in the same vein. On page 11, the east portion built-out area, is that part of the building or part of the, because we talked about not needing all that space, is that what, so we're not gonna remodel that now at this point, is that what we're saying?
Correct, yeah, so right now, we're entirely focused on the warehouse area and the lower office.
Okay.
There is no work scheduled for the upper office, so.
And then the other question I had was about the need for a full topographical site survey. You know, it's not a large amount of money, but it piqued my interest about the need for it, right?
Well, and so that's, right now, it's not necessary. That's for the final design, should we go all the way down. I asked them to, and I should have been more clear about that, I apologize, to give me the all-in, what's the worst-case sort of project here that we can expect. For the preliminary design, no, they can go off a Google Earth picture and say, nah, you're gonna put your fencing here, and so that won't happen. If it becomes necessary, our in-house staff can accomplish that.
Very good.
Well, that raises the question for me. Do we know that this was not already surveyed at the time of construction?
The record drawings are really not good. I can't get them from the city, I can't get them, we've talked to everybody we can come up with to try and get the drawings. The only thing I've been able to get is the landscape plan, which hasn't been too valuable so far, so,
Also, you have to take into consideration, there's a huge drainage that goes underneath the back parking lot, and the reason why you would ever have to survey is if you're gonna make significant modifications to any of the slopes of the parking lot or
Right.
the parking lot, and at that point, you wouldn't wanna rely on a 20-year-old survey. It's not likely we're gonna need survey work at this time. This is just noted as a potential add-on to the contract.
So you verified my question, my need for the question. Did you do that prior to construction work, right? That's the reason for topographical, in my opinion, right? So,
The construction work we're gonna be focusing on in the near term is within the building, and some electrical work outside of the building related to some of the generator hookups. If we have to go through and redo the parking lot, because it depends on what we do with it, there is a significant drainage in the back part of the parking lot that actually kind of daylights right behind a row of houses, so you would wanna survey that work. But this, at this point, this is just them adding it in as a potential add-on, and it's not moving forward. We'll make that decision as we get the preliminary design.
very good. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. So public comment on item 5B? Seeing none, any
motion?
Yes, I'd like to move please that, to adopt resolution 2023-07, amending the 2023 annual budget to include a new capital improvement project, hydro fuel office, in the amount of $1,950,000 and to be funded by Fund 55.
Second.
Division 1?
Yes.
Division 2?
Yes.
Division 5?
Yes.
Division 3?
Aye. Okay, so we'll move on to item 5C, Scott's Spillway Design.
Good morning. Morning, board, staff, members of the public, Doug Roderick, Director of Engineering. Well, that's code. When I first started at the district, I think my first time up here, I apparently was leaning quite casually against it. So I was told later by my supervisor, upright.
I thought you were gonna say solo.
So I'm here this morning, recommending that we approve task order 5 with HDR in the amount of $1.47 million, along with the contingency of $150 to perform Scotts Flat Spillway replacement design. As you're aware, we issued a contract back in 2019 with HDR. There was 3 phases to that, and the overall project amount was, or contract amount was $790,000. We had 3 phases. We had the alternative and conceptual design development, then we had the actual design and documents for construction, and then support for engineering. We issued task order 1, which was for that initial phase 1 work, which is the alternative analysis. And through that, we realized that what we had envisioned the project to be was going to change substantially. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it off to Key, and you'll kind of just do a little background again of that process and how we went through. And then we'll come back and chat about that.
All right, Chris, you want to support the presentation?
Over there.
All right. I'm sorry?
Your screen's not on.
Oh.
We can see your
On the
face.
podium.
Yeah, I'll stick with the chair. Try not to kick back too far. All right, so, well, Chris, that's not clicking, so. Oh, there we go. All right. So just a little bit of background. So we're using the same terminology. Scotts Flat Dam was constructed in 2 phases. There was an initial phase constructed in the early 40s, late 50s, and then it was raised in the mid-60s. So as you're looking at the picture here in the upper left-hand corner is Scotts Flat Dam. On to your right, and how am I going to point at this best? So the shaky hand. The spillway is, the existing spillway crest is there in the top. That's the raised section. Below that is the upper plunge pool. The water goes through the spillway, lands in the upper plunge pool. Goes over the old spillway weir, which is what creates the plunge pool, and then flows down the old spillway chute. And then at the end of the old spillway chute is the flip bucket or the lower plunge pool. All right, so what's that?
What's a flip bucket?
What is a flip bucket?
Okay, so a flip bucket is what's down at the bottom end of the spillway to dissipate energy. So the water comes down the spillway chute, and then it hits like a ski jump at the bottom and launches the water off the bottom, typically. Now, during the construction of the Scotts Flat Spillway, there were some problems with the soil encountered. So our flip bucket is actually underwater. So it's very non-standard sort of design that we have there. So
The one at Rawlins is dramatic when it's running. It's really.
It's amazing. Yep. It gives you an appreciation for the force of water when you stand down there by that flip bucket. So.
Thank you.
All right. So the old spillway chute has been a problem basically since it was constructed. There's been spalling issues there. And then, in early 2017, during the flood flows of that year is when we really started having some problems, and I've got some pictures on on the next slide.
And Ken, really, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but the spalling, is that like taking a thin sheet off, not big chunks, but just a scab?
So it varies in thickness. We had some very thin spalling where it just took the top half an inch off, and then we had some deeper spalling where it took 2 to 3 inches of the top of the spillway off.
That was a new word I learned here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Following the Oroville incident in 2017, DSOD and FERC decided to go through and review a number of spillways. Throughout the state, I don't have the exact number, but they looked at a couple of ours. I know they looked at Jackson Meadows. They looked at Scotts Flat, they looked at Rollins, and did kind of a reevaluation of those. All of our other spillways have been fine, but they did laser focus their attention on Scotts Flat, given the historical issues there. In 2017, we made a significant number of repairs to the spillway. This was just concrete patching generally, where we would either just kind of put that thin coat back on that came off, or in a lot of cases, we cut out the bad section, doweled in new rebar, and poured new concrete on top of it. In 2018, at that time, the Administrative Practices Committee awarded the contract to Schnabel Engineering to do a bunch of exploration under the spillway, so they drilled holes all over to try and characterize the soil. As Doug mentioned, in 2019, the Board of Directors awarded HDR a contract for $790,000. At that time, staff only authorized HDR to move forward with the phase 1 of that project, which was the alternatives analysis, which is where we find ourselves. In November of 2020, based on the work that HDR had done, the board awarded $375,000 for a physical model to be built. And I have some pictures of that and some videos so we can see the results of that work.
Yeah,
So.
that answered that question for me. Where does the model come into this?
Chris, that's, I had asked Jennifer yesterday, I said, where is the model?
The model.
Wanting to see the model for all these years.
How it tied in financially and with HDR, that's what I was.
Yeah, it was good too.
Yep.
Very good.
All right, so you can see some of the damage repairs, and this is kind of what happened in 2017. So on the left-hand side, you can see the variety of spall that we dealt with. Some of them are just kind of superficial, sort of, the old patches may have come off. But then on the bottom picture there, you can see some of the deeper spalling where the top couple of inches came off. We put new rebar in, we patched all that and repaired that. The picture on the right kind of gives you an idea. It's very clear in that picture what is new concrete and what is old concrete. So you can see the repairs were fairly significant at that point. The lighter concrete being the newer stuff, the shinier stuff.
Going forward, does that spillway have to be taken out or be used as a base for the new one?
That's what we're getting to. So during the phase 1 analysis that HDR did for us, and I keep pointing this way, this is Kenny with the HDR, is the project manager, so I apologize for not introducing him. We considered 3 alternatives. Alternative 1 was essentially to break out the existing concrete chute and replace it in kind. It would look almost exactly the same. We would put new drains in it and try and bring it up to a modern standard. Alternative 2 was to essentially rehabilitate what was out there. Whether it was on top of the old spillway, we didn't quite get too far down into that. But this is what HDR assumed was going to happen when they gave us their initial proposal. We assumed that we were going to be able to fix that existing spillway, put in new drains, kind of modernize it, and so that's the driver between the increased cost between their initial design and where we are now. And then the third alternative was to replace the entire spillway chute with modern geometry, modern drains, and get ourselves a whole new product out there. Now, for each of these, there were 2 downstream terminal structures. So the terminal structure is the flip bucket, or where you dissipate the energy at the bottom of the spillway. When HDR came into this, we assumed that we were going to be able to use this St. Anthony Falls stilling basin, and essentially that's just kind of a big walled structure with some dragon teeth in the bottom that kind of creates a pool and dissipates the energy. Or the other alternative is the ski jump, the flip bucket at the bottom to shoot the water off. And that's why we did a lot of this hydraulic modeling, and you'll see the results and why the money on the hydraulic modeling was well spent. For each one of these alternatives, we ran it through a number of criteria where we evaluated different things. I've highlighted two areas here because those are the two that I'm going to talk about. The hydraulic performance and the opinion of probable cost, because frankly, they're the drivers for the decision. So the hydraulic performance, and here is the model, and this is why we can't bring it in, and I've got a couple other pictures. The picture at the bottom gives you an idea of the scale of this thing. This is the person, the top here, and we'll see in the video that I'm going to show you, is where the water comes in, flows down the spillway, and then lands in the pool at the bottom. And again, that'll be more obvious in the video, but this is a large warehouse in Vancouver that this thing was built in. There is no real practical way to get it down here to show everybody.
Bring it in here.
Yep, so we're all going to have to just live through the video. So, and you'll get an idea of the video. The alternative 3, as you would expect, had the best hydraulic performance because basically we're designing it for our exact situation. What came out of the modeling is that alternatives 1 and 2, so either reusing the existing spillway or rebuilding it kind of the way it is now, just doesn't work. We can't fit the probable maximum flood flow through that channel. The NHC team went through and they designed baffle blocks to put at the top to try and dissipate some energy. They came up with all these kind of funky wing walls that would channel the water. And then even with that, they decided that they needed to raise the sides of the spillway about 8 feet tall. So it's just really not practical to go with the overhaul or the in-kind replacement that we were hoping for. Couple more pictures of the spillway here. You can see in the upper right-hand corner is the top of the spillway that you can see the existing spillway crest, and then the lower one, the blue there, the blue wall is the lower spillway, the old spillway crest. You can also see in the yellow there, they've had to include some training walls that will go down the spillway, and again, this will make a bit more sense when we take a look at the video. And then the lower picture, the picture in the lower left-hand corner, is looking down the spillway. You can see the yellow piece there, and again in the video it's more obvious, is the flip bucket, the new flip bucket that we're proposing above the existing flip bucket. So it'll be a little bit higher up the upstream. So I'll show you a video. The video comes with a disclaimer that the modelers are very into this, and the modeler is climbing all over the model as it's going on. This is not a district employee. This work was not in America, so it's not under the supervision of OSHA. So just take the video with a grain of salt. But what he's actually doing in the video is, during the witness testing that we did, because travel was so difficult at that time up and down out of Canada, is they live streamed the whole thing. So you'll see him holding his phone, and the rest of the project team was watching remotely. So there is one of the women in the video is from the Division of Safety of Dams, and then Dar went up there and witnessed it, but the rest of us watched it remotely. So Chris, if you want to play the video for us. So what you'll see here is the water's going to start flowing into the upper area, and that's essentially simulating the lake, and then it's going to start spilling over the spillway and down the spillway chute. As the video progresses, we get about up to the probable maximum flood flow, and so that shows you the simulated behavior of the new spillway chute in the 20 some odd thousand cubic feet a second that is the probable maximum flow. So
How many?
it's 23,000 cubic feet a second.
23,000 feet.
Yeah. And the flood of record is in the 4,000 to 5,000, 6,000 range. So it's the probable maximum flood is a theoretical number that is extraordinarily high. So here you can see the new flip bucket that will be constructed. And
The white thing with the wings on it?
that's the white thing with the wings is the existing flip bucket. The new one is the yellow flip bucket that they've built in there. The top of the proposed walls is the yellow line that runs down the spillway chute there. The gray sections are just kind of put on there so they don't spill water all over the lab floor while they're doing their testing. So you can see there'll be some new training walls below the old spillway crest. That's to make sure the water flows straight down. One of the things that they found during the model testing is that at the higher flows, since there's kind of a dog leg between the upper spillway and the lower spillway, that causes the water to kind of shoot over to one of the walls, and then that effect is followed all the way down. It kind of sloshes back and forth in the spillway channel all the way down. So this will eliminate that, and then the water will flow straight down the channel with those new walls we're proposing to build in there.
Okay, and it's the old structure is removed?
No, the old structure will stay there. What they found is that the energy dissipation from the water spilling from that upper spillway into the upper plunge pool is very beneficial. You gotta dissipate that energy somehow, so we're just kind of gonna step it down into that. That's a modern structure built to, meaning it's from the sixties, but, that's up to the current standards, so that does not need to be replaced.
So how do you differentiate that from Rollins? The way Rollins just flows over that round thing and then it doesn't.
It's a different design. Rollins is another modern spillway sort of design. Rollins is also built into extremely competent bedrock, so it's a very strong facility there, so.
Two questions. Is there a way to dissipate, part of Oroville's problems, they couldn't get rid of water underneath.
And so the new spillway will come with a modern drain system underneath it, where it'll collect the water and then bring it out.
So you can relieve Scott's Flat from underneath?
Yes, since we have to pull everything out to build this new structure, they'll build drains underneath it and bring the water out, to relieve that pressure.
And can this be built in 1 year?
No, so the proposed construction schedule is about 2.5 years, where they'll go and they'll do a lot of the ground prep work that needs to happen, get the trees cleared, build the staging areas in the year 1. Year 2 will be construction of a portion of the spillway, and then year 3 will be the second half of the spillway. So.
And they're raising it up 8 feet?
No, the invert of the spillway will remain about the same that it is now. The walls will be taller than they are now.
Kian, in the picture that you showed us with the spalling, I'm confused as to what is being actually replaced.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, yeah, Chris, do you want to go back to the presentation?
And then when you're done here, I want to understand the impacts to the recreation of Scott's Flat, lowering of it, how that will impact our recreational activity.
And so I don't know that we have the entire answer to that yet. We do plan to construct after the reservoir comes off spill. Basically what we've told the design team is they got to come up with something that works for our water delivery needs. So they will, that's one of the reasons we're doing it in phases, is so we can keep as much water in there as we can. There may be impacts depending on the amount of construction traffic that has to come in and out of there. We've still got to figure some of that stuff out, but that's final design sort of questions as we move forward with the project.
We would anticipate there probably will be some in terms of the camping, because construction traffic has to come through the campground. Having trucks, concrete trucks and stuff coming in and out.
On the Cascade Shore side? Oh, on the other side. And then what about the lake level itself? Is it gonna have to be lowered to accommodate?
No, the plan is to keep it as full as we can, and then during the construction season, as soon as it comes off spill, and we're confident that we're not gonna have any more big rainstorms, then the contractor will get in there and do as much work as they can until the October, November sort of timeframe.
So then you would keep it, whatever the summer level is, would be there, would sustain?
That's our hope. It's a critical water supply facility, so we need to store that water in there as much as we can. Yep.
So if we ever get an atmospheric river this month, next month? May, well, maybe not May, but what would happen currently, because we're full?
The lake would fill and spill, and we're spilling right now,
And you're lowering it a little bit, or no?
We're, as much as we can, the powerhouse is running full bore, but there is more water coming in than we can move through the powerhouse. So it'll just kind of come off and on spill as runoff into the watershed changes.
Remember, the design and the flow that you're looking at is the next coming of NOAA.
Yeah.
So, the spillway can handle what's going on right now. We're not worried about having issues with it today, but we have to meet design standards to meet the agency requirements of ESOD and FERC. So we have to design for this event, and if it does happen, there's gonna be chaos all over the place, but it will pass through the spillway.
Yeah, I think when we talk about the probable maximum flood, you know, flood managers like to talk in 100-year return periods or 1,000-year return periods. Nobody can put a really good number on what the probable maximum flood, the return period is, but it's tens of thousands of years. So it's an epic sort of storm, so.
Right now, we're about 90% of that. We could handle about 90% of a NOAA event.
Of a probable maximum flood event?
Yeah.
No, I don't know what percentage of that, of the PMF we can handle, but it is not,
80, no, you know, okay.
Yeah, overtopping at 8,000 CFS currently.
so we're about 25%-ish of a probable maximum flood.
Yeah, there's a whole lot more issues going on if we're ever in that
Yeah,
maximum flood event. There would be many towns gone
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
throughout the state.
Central Valley.
yeah.
Provide the numbers again, Ken. It was 23,000 CFS versus our observed high flow event is what?
It's in the 4,000 to 6,000, 5,000, so and that's,
But we could handle more than 4,000.
yes, yep,
What
yep.
can we handle right
So
now?
it's about 8,000,
Double, okay.
Yeah.
You put that out last week or so.
yeah, that we're nowhere near passing that. I think, Chip, do you know the spill off the top of your head? It's a couple hundred CFS tops right now, so,
Yeah, I don't have it on that.
yeah.
Were those the 87 or 97 event years?
That's when we hit our peak, our 4,000 to 6,000 cubic feet a second, yeah.
And were those, well, I know, I remember, those were the years that, the restaurant in Nevada City lost its deck, you know, on Deer Creek.
Yeah.
And so I just, for scale purposes, for my education, what was the, total amount of CFS that was coming through in those years that took out that deck?
That's in that 4,000 to 6,000 cubic feet a second, the flood of record. So the probable maximum flood being 4 times that
Oh, yeah,
is,
well, it's like the whole town would be gone.
the town's gone, the Central Valley's gone, it's a design standard, and you gotta design to something, but,
You gotta create a basis.
yeah, the impacts would be
Right.
staggering to the region.
It's biblical.
I'm sorry?
Where's it created from?
So it's based on the theoretical maximum amount of water that could fall on the watershed, and you compound that with snow melt, depending on where you are. It is the worst case of the worst case that people can come up with, basically, so.
Doomsdayers who didn't have to fund it.
Yes, that's a fair, yeah.
How often are we gonna get this doomsday criteria upgraded?
So that's an interesting question, and it has been upgraded over the years. Our probable maximum flood at Scotts Flat didn't change a lot during the most recent update. It went up a couple thousand cubic feet a second. At a place like Combe, it changed dramatically. It more than doubled there. So, I'm sorry?
Like 78,
Yeah.
74, some thousand.
Yeah, and so Scotts Flat's been fairly steady over the years as the methodologies are changed. The watershed there's fairly
Deer Creek's
small.
not bigger.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yep, so.
Is there any data from, was it 1860s when the big one happened? When was that?
Yeah.
They took the dam up.
That flooded the entire Central Valley.
Yes, is it 1860,
63, I think.
63?
Well,
They probably don't have string gauges that tell us what happened to them.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
well, malaria, encephalitis, and yellow fever.
Well, no, I know that, but how much water came down the hill?
It was flooded, 1939-40, it was flooded all the way from basically I-5 to Highway 70.
Yeah.
Islands, but that was it.
So back to the question about what exactly is being replaced. So on the left-hand picture here, essentially this is the old Spillway crest here, the entire section down to the bottom, will be replaced. Yeah, sorry.
They can see at home. Okay.
So the entirety of that lower, spillway chute, so we can go even back to the Google
So
Earth
the
picture.
sidewalls or the bottom?
The whole thing, it's all getting pulled out.
So this whole structure?
So the structure from the old spillway crest here, all the way down through this chute, down to the old flip bucket here at the bottom.
Okay, thank you.
It's quite a project.
Yeah.
And in the best case scenario, when do you think the work would actually begin? Would it be this summer?
So no, we have about a year and a half of design. We've got some significant hurdles to get over from DSOD, from FERC. We've got the environmental documentation that needs to be done. So we're probably a year to two over construction.
Before we get to construction?
Yeah.
And then when we do that, do we have a methodology of notifying the residents there so that they know what's happening?
They'll certainly be,
Yeah, they'll be part of the CEQA process, right, as we start to get into the design phase, and we'll be bringing a consultant on board that will go through the CEQA process for all the permitting and all that, and we'll start that notification, right, where we typically identify folks, in our area, what's gonna be going on.
Okay.
Same with if we have to impact recreation, et cetera, out there, we can start to post those things way in advance. It's not like we have to do it right before we start, because we'll have plenty of time to get.
Yeah, it sounds like it'll help plenty of time.
Sending the notifications out, and so traffic routes and stuff, we can start to get the word out that that's gonna be happening.
Good. I wanted to make sure that's built in.
Yeah.
So during the CEQA process, I mean, you're looking at all the impacts. Then there's an overriding public benefit and overriding regulatory demand. Some impacts are gonna be defaulted to that. So why?
So the idea would be that we could mitigate the impacts that are identified as part of that process, whether that's how we keep track of, species of concerns or that type of thing, where we have to do surveys or silt fencing, et cetera, to try to keep them out. Impacts with regards to, coming in for greenhouse gases for vehicles coming in and out to do this project stuff. Some of those things we might exceed. Hopefully, we can have mitigations that make those all mitigatable, but if not, then we would come to the board requesting that you approve it with those considerations and the fact that we can't mitigate for all impacts, but it still needs to be done.
Yeah. I mean, it rises to a level of significance beyond mitigation. But it seems like, so it didn't go originally through a CEQA process when it was built. This is more current. I just don't want to we're being forced to do this. It's a good project for the community because it gives more security. Just don't want to add an expense by CEQA impacts that we really, you know what I mean? We don't want to be mitigating things that are not relevant to the project.
We will follow the law.
Yeah. CEQA doesn't allow, I mean, when you go through a CEQA analysis, you are allowed to have unavoidable impacts.
Yeah.
But the new CEQA requirements require you to identify the environmentally superior alternative. And if the board were to choose an alternative that was not that environmentally superior alternative, you'd have to make findings that there's some greater public benefit or need.
Right.
There isn't an option to, I mean, well, of course, you could do whatever you want, but your legal counsel will counsel you on the risks associated with not implementing specific mitigation. But, you know, it's a bridge we'll cross, or a spillway we will cross when we get there.
All my point is that this is a huge public benefit and regulatory demand by the state. I don't want groups in the community trying to nitpick certain mitigations that we have to pay for that really don't apply to this project.
So CEQA.
Don't slow it down. We need to get this thing done.
So we will be the lead agency as far as CEQA goes. We will go through the analysis and in consultation with a variety of experts will identify any required mitigation measures. It is through the release of the draft environmental document that other groups can provide comments that could impact proposed mitigation, but you also have to remember there's going to be a series of permits that are required for this type of work, and those permits can also come with their own conditions. I wouldn't get too wrapped around the axle at this point regarding those issues, because we really do need to start this preliminary design work to start even scoping for the CEQA process.
I agree. I'm just going on record saying, work with us on this.
Yeah, we would anticipate probably in late spring or summer, getting a CEQA consultant on board so they can start to work with the HDR team terms of lay down areas and all the areas we need to identify and start to go through the process. So that way they can be intimately involved in the process, get those permits moving forward as fast as we can.
Doug or Ken, could you comment on if you would anticipate the need for using the Lower Scotts Flat Road, or what is it called now? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, below,
Yeah,
down to Lower Scotts Flat Reservoir?
yeah. To use
Lower Scotts
that
Flat Road.
To then access upstream? No. So you'll be accessing everything?
Yeah, everything, all the work's gonna be either right there on the spillway where access is
Okay.
on the dam, or right there in the pump.
So then we will have no need
That's good news.
to go down that, it's not called Lower Scotts Flat Road.
It is.
It is, okay,
The less we have to work downstream, the better.
right. Well, I'm happy to hear that we're not gonna interfere with
Yeah.
that road.
Other than traffic.
Yeah. All right, so then, oh, go ahead.
Really quick, what's the timeframe that DSOD has given us? Are we good with them? Or how long is this?
So we've sent them a revised timeframe based on what, the engineering schedule looks like and the construction schedule looks like. They haven't, formally come back and approved it yet, but our conversations with them are that they're happy with our progress.
Okay.
They're happy with the repairs that we have made out there.
They haven't said you have to have this done by 2025.
They have. They said that, well, when it first happened, they said we had to have the entire thing replaced in 2017. And then they came back with I think it was a 2024 sort of timeframe. But they're somewhat reactionary dates, and as we've dove into this, we've brought them along with us. They witness tested the hydraulic model, they understand the situation, and they're happy with the effort and the work that we're putting in. Now if the board were to say something like, you know what, we're not gonna fund this job, we're walking away from it, then we would absolutely have a problem. But at this point, they're comfortable with our progress.
And I am meeting with the DSOD rep today, this afternoon. Get the ball rolling.
Good.
They did such a great job at Oroville.
All right, so,
All right, moving on.
the last, evaluation criteria that I wanted to share with you is, the preliminary opinion of probable cost. And I want to stress, the people that created this always stress that this is based off of conceptual drawings. It's a class 4 estimate, which means it could be 30% low or 50% high. There's a huge range. And so this is not a bid from a contractor. These are just, kind of to get you on the right page. And so one of the big things that really drove our decision is you can see that all of the repair costs or all of the repair alternatives are very similar in cost. We can go out and try and patch this thing and maybe save $1 million, but when we're talking 100-year lifespan of a spillway, that's just really not worth doing. And then the second thing I'd like to point out is that when we came to the board and asked for the additional funding for the physical model, it's because we thought it would save money in the long run. And I think that this table, the 5.4 there, bears it out very well. The initial thought was that we'd put this SAF spilling basin on there. The optimized design that we've come up with is $5 million cheaper than the original thought, so that was absolutely money well spent on the hydraulic models. So, so you can see, at this point, we're looking at $20 to $30 million job. I think these numbers are probably low when we're looking at inflation like we're looking at right now. It'll be interesting to see how it comes together, but this gives you the ballpark of the total project, so.
Okay, and I'm sorry, do we would include in the project cost, the stilling basin and the flip bucket?
No, so you
No.
pick one or the other of those alternatives. So you take alternative 3 at $14.6 million plus the flip bucket plus at 3.1, so you're at 18 million at that point.
Okay.
Like I said, I think that's gonna probably wind up being low, once inflation continues to do what it does. This does not include engineering costs. This does not include environmental mitigation sort of costs. There are additional costs. This is just simply the construction cost at this point.
And as we move forward in design, we'll be doing updates to the linear bubble costs and get more refined and more detailed and better costs. So as we go through that, we bring back to the board.
Okay.
And start to get a better feel for what that's looking like, if it's trending higher, lower, or the same.
So, but just to summarize, you said a $30 million price range, generally, you think is more likely to be what we end up with?
That would be on the high end. I'm hopeful 25 million, I think is probably a fair number. Yeah.
Versus C. Myers when you're really needing.
Well, and is it not true, that from where we started to where we are today, that the regulatory environment has also changed and has made demands on us that then drive up the cost? And that could certainly continue, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oroville was a kind of a turning point in dam safety in California and federally. And so the regulations are evolving regularly, and we're gonna need to respond to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is really an important project, and I fully support it, and I'd like to see it get done sooner rather than later.
Takes a long time.
It does take a long time.
So that concludes my presentation. Doug, I'll hand it back to you to deal with that.
Just kind of to finish up, as you can see, the scope has changed dramatically from what it is. So, you know, we've gone through the RFP process, we vetted all the different consulting firms. The HDR was unanimously chosen by our group. And so we're very confident, one, that they have the ability to do the job, and two, that the prices are reasonable. They know all the details already, they've been involved in the process since day one. So having others come in, not necessarily gonna save you in terms of money for the scope of work for this next phase, which is the design. So that's why we're confident and we're recommending that we approve.
Can I ask where the funds for this project already exist in, I think it would be Fund 55?
The funds for this phase of the project, for the design phase of the project, are included in the budget for 2023. The construction funds are something that we're gonna have to continue to work on.
Okay. So could we maybe have that as a board discussion item? Because we need to be, that's not too far off, that we're looking at 20 to 25 million for Hydro needing to fund.
Yeah, we should definitely have the discussion, we're just not quite ready to have it. I don't know that Hydro alone should pay for the entire project, but we need to take consideration of financing opportunities as well as grant opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some more work before that item would be well baked enough to bring it forward.
Right.
Ideally, we would maximize any potential for grant funding, and this project has a fairly good chance
I would
for
think it
getting
would.
grant funding due to the public safety factor
Mhm.
associated with it.
Yep.
As well as we need to work with our financial advisors on whether it makes more sense to finance this type of a project or not.
Okay, thank you.
And then also the way that it's gonna be built over multiple years.
Yeah.
We start to get a better feel for that, we can have discussions about how much we're gonna be spending in the 2 to 3 year window. And then again, whether it makes sense to fund for all of it, or maybe we can use, you know, more existing stuff to deal with at least a portion of it.
I think the grant funding and the loan funding that Jennifer mentioned, there's significant federal money that's going to be available, but they don't yet know how they're gonna award it. They haven't come up with their award criteria yet. They've kind of given out these broad buckets, and we absolutely land in those buckets. First or second quarter of this year, we expect to get their guidance on what it takes to get that money. And so we will continue to diligently watch for that.
When will we be ready to apply for it?
As soon as it's available. We've been working with our grant consultant, and so she's ready to go. Once we know what the criteria are, once we know what we have to provide them, we'll pull it
We
together.
have enough information.
Yes, I believe at this phase of the project, we should have the information, unless they come in and say, we want final design drawings. We're not gonna have that, but I would expect that they're gonna want conceptual design. They're gonna want to know what you're going to do. We're well prepared for that.
So I'm ready to make a motion.
I would
We want
think-
public comment.
I would think that that we would be well suited to get some grant money, infrastructure money for this. I have a big hope for that, right?
Yeah, and this is a benefit to the whole community, right? I mean, this is, like you've said, that this is our supporting agencies.
Yeah.
The county, fire districts. I mean, this is a whole community engagement where we can have letters of support. We've got ideas for all sorts of different ways that we can partner, not partner financially, but others who are interested in this product.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this. And I'm excited about the project. It's been a long time coming. and we need to move it forward, and I'm looking for, now, this does not include any of the environmental work, right?
Correct, that will come back separate.
We'll come back separate.
Right, once we start to get a better handle on how we're moving forward and getting close to 30%, I'm sure we have a control on board, that will start happening.
Okay, so with that, if there are no objections, I'd like to make a motion to approve task order 5 with HDR in the amount of $1,470,000 and a contingency of $150,000 to perform the Scott's Flat Spillway replacement design and authorize the general manager to execute the necessary documents.
Any public comment on this topic? Seeing none, we'll ask Chris to take the vote.
Division 1,
Yes.
Division 2,
Yes.
Division 5,
Yes.
Division 3.
Aye. And many thanks to Kian and Doug for their
Yeah,
work on
thank you,
this.
guys.
And thank you for coming to the meeting.
And thanks for putting us in a position to take advantage of whatever we can. This is a big project.
Our next item is a workshop item that's on the financial analyst.
Thank you, President Hall. This is just a brief workshop item to receive any input the board may have on a proposed staff, job specification change. As the board is aware, based off of our retirement presentation today, our longtime finance analyst has retired, and therefore we did start the recruitment process for that particular vacant position. The recruitment process wasn't going all that well, as far as having candidates that met the actual needs of the district for that particular position. That particular position is really a budgetary position. They're in charge of budget analysis, putting the budget together, reporting to the board on the status of the budget. And once they started reviewing the current job specification, it became apparent that the details and specifications included into the job specification were not really relevant to the job. They were really crossing over with the accountant position. So we're taking this opportunity to clean up that job specification. We think that it will aid in recruitment as well as providing clear expectations for that position once it is filled. There is no proposed salary change associated with this proposal to the board today. We are just simply here to seek input. Based off of the input we received today, we will make any necessary modifications and then propose it to the board for full approval at a later date. That, and Naomi's also here, one of us can answer any questions you may have.
So my input is just make the changes you have to make to do the job.
Is it anticipated this position would have any staff, any oversight over any other staff, working beneath this position?
Not at this time. The position, if it were to have any oversight, it would be in a lead worker role as opposed to a supervisor role.
It looked great.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, Naomi and team did a great job. Yeah. She worked diligently with Sandra Dunlap, our new finance director, and so together they were able to develop a great product. Thank you.
How's that for input?
Yeah, there you go. Done and done.
And if there's any input you determine necessary to share, please feel free to share it with me prior to the next board meeting. We can get it included in before we present it back to the board.
Any public comment on this workshop item? None, we will move on to the general manager's report.
All right, thank you, President Hall. I'm gonna get my list of little items here. I just wanted to provide a brief update on the RISE mine. As reported out previously, the county did release the final EIR for the RISE mine. The next step would be for the item to go before the planning commission, which would make a recommendation for approval or not certification to the full board of supervisors. And then it will go before the board of supervisors for final consideration of final certification of the document. Staff has had the opportunity to review the comments and responses to comments related to the comment letter that NID provided on the draft environmental document, and I will be providing an analysis to the board. So huge thank you to Chip and Doug for all of their hard work on reviewing the document and, taking into consideration the board's concerns related to the environmental document. We will, for the most part, our comments were addressed. There's a couple that are still a little bit outstanding, so look forward to our analysis, and then the board can have further discussion on whether or not we want to pursue any further comments at either the planning commission or the board of supervisors level.
Jen, I would just say, you had a really big impact
Yes.
when you
Yes,
spoke
you did.
before. And I'm sure all of us have gotten feedback about that. And so I really appreciate that, and also would ask that you continue to be the face of this for the district going forward.
And definitely, more than happy to do that.
Thank you.
So are we going, if our concerns are not addressed, could we go even as far as saying, do not certify this?
Yes, at this point, I mean, it is, and Steve is the best one to speak on this, it is somewhat of a technicality. It gets very political at this point. There's no more kind of administrative ways to stop it outside of full litigation. But, you know, I have definitely had experience, I'm sure everyone in this room has had experience with that political input, and consideration can often be helpful in getting your comments addressed in the manner that you deem appropriate. So
this is early, but having read I haven't read the EIR, but, your analysis is, does it warrant being certified at this point, or does it address everything it should? Does it fall short
Are
in
you
certain
speaking
areas?
just simply to the water piece of our comment, or the whole
Well, I
thing?
think that's
There's
where we-
9,000 pages.
I know.
So, yeah.
right,
Yeah.
so
That's why we haven't read it.
from the district perspective, we only look at it through
From the
a
water.
very narrow lens.
Yeah.
I do not, from our very narrow lens, there is nothing that, that is that alarming that I would say that it wouldn't be certified based off of any potential comments we have. Now, do I think that we would like some of the mitigation measures we originally suggested that they are not included? Sure.
You bet.
But that's more that political nature, so that's kind of the line, you know, it's the line between, do you file for litigation, or do you go more the political route?
But we'll get analysis before the planning commission looks at it, that pertaining to our narrow vision, water, well testing, line hookups, mitigation effects on our water supply and all that. We'll have that analysis.
I will be providing the board with that analysis likely this afternoon. And then based off of any individual feedback we receive, we can always place this on the future agenda if the board desires to provide more specific direction. But, we do have a very, very narrow list. And so our comments are, and analysis is limited somewhat to that lens.
Yeah. I mean, it's a narrow lens, but it's the one lens, it's the one thing that has sunk other minds.
Well, so we have to be careful. We're not here to just.
We're not done, we're not here to sink it, I'm not saying that. But the impact of that mine, maybe I misspoke on that, the impact of that mine is so much greater because of the water impacts.
I am not well
understand.
versed on the previous history of the mine.
No, I agree, we have to stay narrow.
We definitely have to
I
say
look
no.
forward to seeing your comments
Yeah.
and being able to comment, and then in a perfect world, I would like to see us then do a follow-up letter to say the response was adequate, not adequate, we'd like to see, sort of a follow-up letter to both the planning commission and the board of supervisors on our findings of the comparisons between what we asked and suggested and what they could agree to do in terms of.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Yeah, it's just simply a follow-up letter to.
Follow up, yeah.
Yeah. And we can start preparing that. The analysis stuff completed will go a long ways to serve as a basis for that.
Right. Okay.
The other item I wanted to provide an update on, and Dustin and I could tag team this, there was some progress made in the voluntary agreement process. There was a presentation to the State Water Resources Control Board related to the scientific basis report, which will serve as the foundation for the update to the supplemental environmental document. So essentially substantiates the regulatory benefit to the voluntary agreement pathway for compliance with the basin plan in conjunction with any future unimpaired flows. I only was able to listen to the beginning portion of the hearing. I don't know if you have any more comments.
Just a little bit further detail. The scientific basis report analyzes the voluntary agreement concept. Remember, at a high level, it's contributing additional flow in conjunction with a habitat restoration project. And this is considered an addendum to a 2017 scientific basis report that solely focused on flow, unimpaired flow specifically. So this is a positive step in terms of recognizing the need for habitat restoration in the Bay Delta watershed, and how habitat restoration coupled with kind of strategic flows, new flows to the system, provides a positive benefit to biological resources. So it's a step in the right direction for voluntary agreements. I read the document. It's about 350 pages, not quite 9,000, but highly technical. It's available online if you want to peruse it. NID is not specifically mentioned at this time. However, I would say that a potential contribution by NID, there's room in the document for NID to contribute. There is a comment opportunity. Comments are due, I want to say, February 8th. I will work with staff to prepare a comment suggesting that NID be more explicitly recognized in the document. Finally, there was discussion of a schedule, and I don't have it in front of me, but it's a fairly aggressive timeline. The next step for the scientific basis report is to receive comments, incorporate any changes to the document, and it will undergo peer review. Once the document is finalized, they expect some time in the summer. They will shift then into more of an environmental analysis of the broader amendments to the Bay Delta Water Quality Control Plan. That will take us into 2024, at which time, I think late 2024, the Water Board anticipates essentially adopting a project, formally amend the plan. So it is progress.
So does that include what just happened in that document where no water was diverted to Southern California to fill the reservoirs that all got flushed out the Delta?
That's a separate issue. That is it's called the first flush rule, the requirement of the current biological opinions.
And it's
Related to the pumps. It's related to the Delta pumps. It's
Right,
not really
just
part of the voluntary
But it-
agreement.
but it has, yeah, but it has effect on it. I mean,
It's
how many
related
millions?
in the sense that the biological opinions are designed to protect endangered species. And the water quality control plan is designed to provide reasonable protection to beneficial uses, one of which is in-stream uses. So there is a relationship in that respect. Since you brought it up, the biological opinions are being reinitiated. They're consulting again to prepare new biological opinions. So there is a hope in the water community that there could be a closer connection between new biological opinions and voluntary agreements / water quality control.
And reality.
Yeah, it was something like almost 160,000 CFS going to Delta outflow, and the pumps were running at about a fraction of capacity, 4,000 CFS, something like that.
About 330,000 acre feet a day.
Yeah, it's a lot.
All right, there's no more questions on the VA. I just have, one more quick update on water supply. Chip is going to dazzle us with our
My
copious
favorite part of our
amounts of
meeting.
water. Yes.
I can't do my rain dance, that would dazzle you, but.
Yes, it's clearly been working, so thank you.
What's the next one? We want to come over.
Yeah, we haven't seen. Yeah, you don't want to see it.
Have a video.
All right, so this is gonna be very similar to 2 weeks ago, but it will show progress.
It'll be better.
In overall water storage and presets. So we'll start off with Bowman Lake. You can see we are moving well ahead of average, 174%. 6.29 inches of rain. At this point, we're passing all previous years in drought, with our presets. So pretty impressive, and the, current forecast, shows rain moving back in, which is promising. My biggest fear was that this storm door would shut off and.
Yeah.
And while those storms coming are very, very small, at least it's something. If we get a normal winter from here on out, I'll be very happy.
When's the next day for rain? Sunday, right?
Monday, yeah.
Chip, I have a question about the inches of precipitation. Is that measured, in snow or rain gauge or both at Bowman? How's that work?
It is water content.
Water content, okay.
You bring up a good point. It snows, basically snow at Bowman through a lot of these storms. And Kean's Hydro team goes up there and they melt what's in the bucket and get a water volume.
Oh, they have a bucket, they melt it.
So, and that can be very difficult because access up there is,
Mhm.
you know.
You shared that last time, but somebody asked me that question, how do they measure it? I'm not quite sure. Thank you.
Moving on, our reservoir storage, basically off the charts. Looking very good, 229,000 acre feet. Now, if you recall, our drought contingencies plan says that we need overall, I think, 237,000 acre feet to have a normal year. That includes snowpack, runoff, all that yet to come. We're almost there just with reservoir storage already, so we're in great shape.
If you were going to do analysis of runoff and yada, yada, you don't know when it's coming. Over 300,000?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because actually today and tomorrow, they're doing snow surveys. So we will have a much better analysis in the future coming. Ashley and team and our hydrographers from down here are flying it today, and then Tor and I think it's Mitch, I'm not sure if it's Mitch or Bobby. Anyway, are going up to Shock Bluff, and we're gonna get all the current information and plug it into our models and get you guys some better numbers. It's gonna be a lot. DWR's latest numbers for the snow water equivalent remain very high, and again, I like to focus on the number on the left here. That's what is anticipated for April, and we're already well surpassed that. So we've received more snowpack than we anticipate for the April, first snow survey. So we're in really good shape there as well, 226% in the Central Sierra. Good numbers. And then we'll kind of take a brief tour across the state. Shasta is really performing now. It's really jumping up. Keep in mind that Shasta isn't just the rain effects on it. We haven't started seeing snow melt yet. So when you put that snow melt on top of what we've already received, anticipated, the thing's gonna fill. So fingers crossed, that's what some of the folks are saying.
So is there a lot of snow up there? Because I'm hearing two different things.
184% of average.
Okay.
It's not as good as the rest of the state, like the southern, as far as the percentage goes, but there's still a good
Right,
snowpack.
the first couple of those storms didn't
Didn't hit
much
us.
up there.
Yeah.
And they came down here.
Yeah.
And when you look at Shasta, sometimes they're out, letting out 10,000 CFS.
Yeah, they,
Hydro?
I think they were waiting for, Mother Nature to provide the flows into the delta for them. So the first few storms, they had to continue releasing until the natural runoff picked up enough. Back to that first flush, analysis and comment.
Well, now it's the third, fourth, and fifth flush.
Trinity, doesn't look as impressive. And I actually looked this reservoir up, and the reason why it's not responding is it's basically snowpack.
Yeah.
It's a much higher elevation reservoir. The watershed is quite a bit smaller, but it's basically snowpack and waiting for that to melt. It probably will be very late to fill. Oroville, they're past average, so, yeah, very impressive turnaround there. Folsom, it's all over the map, but very impressive filling there too. And then Bullards, they've finally getting to the flood stage, so they're gonna be forced to be releasing excessive amounts of water as well, so. What a turnaround, you know, all of the folks said it would take years and years to pull out of this drought. We're well on our way, and we're doing it in a matter of months at this point. The Sac Valley Reservoir conditions, this is provided by MBK. And this is a comparison of previous drought years. You can see the black line there, we are skyrocketing up and passing the 87 to 90 drought conditions. And, my hope is that we're well on our way to passing that, 2013 through 16 drought condition as well, so. Again, things improving very well. This is the California Drought Monitor. This was January 10th. As we move forward, you can see the improvement just in a matter of a week. This particular slide is funny to me. So this was the U.S. Seasonal Drought Outlook. This was valid for January 1st through March 31st. It was released December 31st, and it looked good. All right, it was progressing. The gray area there shows you drought remains but improves, and that's most of the state. The most recent one they just put out actually goes backwards, strangely enough. So basically, Southern California, they say drought persists. But the one key takeaway that I appreciate on this one is that our area up here in California is turning green, which it says drought removal likely. So we have greatly improved. Southern California is probably not out of the woods yet.
Because they never filled their reservoirs
Well,
with the first flush.
I see a reoccurring thing here this morning, Rich.
Well, I mean, it affects us.
I think it's more than just that, Rich. It's also the Colorado River, right?
Yeah.
Their supply from that side is not going to rebound in 1 year. It just.
How can they put a green on because they don't factor in groundwater. We don't deal in groundwater, but the west side of San Joaquin and the west side of the Sacramento Valley, groundwater hasn't come back up that much. So there's deficits there, certainly major drought considerations.
So I believe that's why this hasn't been completely released of all drought conditions. The drought monitor actually does take into account groundwater levels.
It does.
All factored into this particular map, and that's why the state still shows us being in some level of drought.
But as a farmer who's trying to use as well in the south, west side of Sacramento, I would say we're in extreme drought over there. I just don't, I think they're sugarcoating it a little bit.
Okay. From a surface water world, we're in really great shape.
That's right.
Okay, so the next one is the seasonal temperature outlook, really hasn't changed any, we're at equal chances. Seasonal precipitation outlook hasn't really changed. Breaking all kinds of precip records, but, this map just kind of is a guesstimation, and I think moving forward, we're in that 50-50. Although I will say the long-term projection is that La Nina is backing off. We're gonna go to neutral ENSO conditions, and then moving into, the other,
El Nino.
La Nina. We went from La Nina going away to El Nino. But the El Nino isn't anticipated to take over until late spring and this summer, so may not have a great effect on us. And then treated water conservation, I gave this presentation at the Ag Commission the other day, and the question came up, I want to see all years to see how overall usage has changed. So I put them all back in. It's a little hard to see on this slide, but you can see there's two different shades in the background. One of them is 2020, that's the lighter blue. The darker blue is what our overall water usage was in 2013. So you can see that just the shift in water usage since 2013 is pretty substantial. Then you add to that the red line, this was last year. This was our second most conservation we realized in a year with that red line. The green line was 2015, had that 36% target. So again, our customers are really doing their best in conservation. We appreciate it.
If I had a question about you mentioned floodgates. Who determines what dam gets floodgates? We have some that do and some that don't, correct? Do we have floodgates at
I
Bowman?
prefer this one to Ian, but I think all of ours are spillover, they're not.
I thought we had some at.
We have regulations.
Yeah, we have radial gates up at Bowman and Jackson Meadows, but they're not for flood control,
Oh, they're
for
not.
water storage, we don't have any
Okay,
flood control requirements out of those.
thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Jennifer.
Yes.
So Board of Directors, let's start with Chris today.
Chris has no report.
All right, that was quick, that was my plan.
That was your plan.
So Ricky?
Well, I'll have a brief report. I've had a number of constituent meetings this last several weeks. And, as you might imagine, most of them are centered on what is up with NID and the mine. And, NID has been perceived, at least in my area, my division, as, really providing thoughtful, our thoughtful participation has really been appreciated. Everywhere I talk to, everybody I touch. So that's great, but there does seem to be a bit of an expectation about the next step from NID. And so that's why I think it'll be really important to have a letter that sort of follows up and documents, our response and how good they did or how good they didn't do in responding to what we had suggested. I also wanted to think about if we were to, given our vast supply, if we were to consider at some point any kind of water transfers, and I don't know that we would or would not, that we have some kind of public outreach or workshops or something. And I don't know how the board feels about that. I know Jen has one way, because she and I talked about it yesterday, but it might be useful to see what everybody's feeling about that.
We are planning on having a workshop. We're thinking the second meeting in February regarding any potential water transfers.
Oh, okay, good.
I think it's important.
You think, which is important? I mean, I know we're having a
Outreach.
outreach. I do too. I think it's important for people to. It's interesting. I had one conversation this last week with someone, and they asked me about that. And, the knee-jerk reaction is, which one I shared for the last number of years, was, oh, no. We don't want to share. And in discussing it with the same person and talking about, the bigger issues, at the end of the conversation, they were like, oh, that's very interesting. I can see why you would be giving consideration to that. So it was really clear to me that education and a quality discussion will really help as we move through this. It should be go there. Well, thank you.
I've done most of my OCD stuff. February 23rd, town meeting hall at Penn Valley, Seventh-day Adventists. Karen and I are on the agenda. We're going to do a slideshow, ask questions. It's a good one. May need help, probably not. And I yield the rest of my time to Dustin on the weather report.
Mention what
Please.
Director Johansson and I had a discussion on the way in here. I was part of a call yesterday morning, and DWR's meteorologist was one of the speakers. And I just found it interesting because I could hear he was obviously interested in it, but it also a little bit of a potential concern. He reported on a weather system developing at least 10 days out north of Hawaii. Of course, us in the water industry always focus on the extremes, right? And the extreme droughts and the extreme floods. And when you have a snowpack like what Chip reported on, you kind of get a little concerned about what if we have a Pineapple Express.
Right.
And of course, this is well out in the forecast as a potential, and he qualified it significantly, both in terms of actually materializing and then also the location. He said something like it could land Santa Barbara up to Portland. But it's the type of system that would give you concern if it were to develop into one of these Pineapple Express warm rain event type systems. So anyway, he thought, he and his colleagues have been discussing this, and he thought it could materialize the end of next week. So it's not showing up yet.
Soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not I checked this morning, it's not showing up yet in any of my sources, so. Anyway, but, again, February is one of those years in California where you can get hit with, typically you see these warm systems. February of 1986 is a classic example. This may not be true, but at one point in time, I think the flow into Orville would have filled Orville in like 3 days. I mean, it was just
Million.
it was just massive, rain on snow, and the inflows that they saw. So we'll see, but
That's what happened in 87.
that was February of 1986.
86.
And that was the same year they had a lot of flooding in the Olivehurst
Right.
Lake area, levee breaks, and very significant storm system.
Well, it came with one foot of topping over Folsom.
Mm-hmm. Got one thing.
Okay.
This is really for our board, but, I finally have a date with the Board of Realtors presentation, and Chip, he's helping me, and I appreciate that. I think we're meeting Friday, right? Anyhow, the date for the presentation to the Nevada County Board of Realtors is, Thursday, the 23rd of February. And
Same date.
hopefully,
Same date,
same date of what?
Death Valley.
Oh, it is, oh, interesting. So, my goal would be to have a presentation put together with Chip's help and whoever else he designates, that then can be replicated to take to Placer County Board or, the Truckee or wherever, so that we can talk about.
So just the realtors?
This is just realtors, yeah, and the goal is to pinpoint it on how they represent NID in their sales and marketing. There's an awful lot of misinformation and incorrect information, and creating expectations that aren't going to be filled, and liabilities and so on. So, I've been involved up here for almost 40 years, and now we have, now we have this whole new crop of newer licensees, right? So all the people I worked with have all retired for the most part, and we have all these brand new people, and they just don't really have the background or the knowledge. So this is an effort to help educate.
Excellent.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
So for me, I wanted to remind my fellow directors that on the agenda for our next meeting will be a discussion on the district's top priorities, and it's our opportunity to bring up other kinds of what I would call lower level work or potential projects that we would like to see the district undertake for 2023.
Okay. Bring our wish list.
Yeah, bring your wish list, and then we'll talk about it, and Jen and team can say, blah, or, hey, that's feasible, and so we'll get some consensus and be able to add that to the list.
Be a workshop, correct?
I assume so, yeah. I was at AAUW, American Association of University Women, on Saturday morning representing NID, and got a lot of real positive feedback about the district, and just, it was nice to hear an appreciation for the gem that we have in our community. Also an interest in having a presentation there at some point, which brings up the presentation topic, because it occurred to me that I knew Ricky was doing the Nevada County Board of Realtors, Rich and I doing the Penn Valley. So I just want everybody to know, I've also reached out to the Contractors Association, the Placer County Realtors, and have a date set with them, the Nevada County Contractors Association, and then Lake of the Pines. And so Ricky and I plan to do Lake of the Pines.
And the contractors.
Well, I'm doing contractors.
Oh,
okay.
So I just, Chris, you weren't in the mix, and I wanted you to not feel left out.
No, it's on my radar. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to keep talking about this item as far as preparing a presentation. I don't know if this is relative, if you're talking about relative to the need for a rate increase or not, but that's on my mind to take that to Farm Bureau, for instance, and or would a PowerPoint presentation that covers all these, I don't know how many topics you're all talking about there. I'm assuming it includes water rates. Am I correct or not?
It hasn't.
It has not up to
Today.
this point,
Okay.
because there's been no decisions or board action on that yet.
Well, no, I know, but the potential exists.
We don't have the numbers yet.
I understand, but looking forward Anyway, so I'm glad you brought this up and we can talk about it.
So maybe, I don't know if it's appropriate to have it as an agenda item, because it just seems to me that we have the potential of accidentally not looking so good because I call somebody and then 2 days later, somebody else calls somebody, the same person. And so I just think, you know, and I don't think we care necessarily of who's doing what, but that we, have a united, organized approach that people say, oh, they're so professional over there at the NID board.
Plus, I think it's important to, talk about the content,
Yes,
to make certain that we're consistent.
yes.
Yes.
So how would you suggest we approach that?
I would recommend we workshop the item, and I think that Greg and I could work together to develop a template. And then possibly during the workshop, we could provide the presentation to you. You could provide us feedback, we could modify the template, and then that might help give you some talking points.
Oh,
Okay,
good
cool.
idea.
And we'd all be on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always important as a board to ensure that you are somewhat speaking with a unified voice.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great idea.
Good.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And that's it for me. So, okay, let's see, anything else that I need to do here? Oh, adjourn.
Adjourned.
We're adjourned, here.
Thank you.